All right, diving right in. Today, we're taking a look at a pretty unique concept, this idea that we can view life like a video game. You sent in a YouTube video transcript from SimoneSquared that explores this analogy, so we're going to unpack it.
Yeah, when I first heard this analogy, I was a bit, I don't know, I wasn't totally buying it.
Right.
But the video mentions that even the speaker took like 2 years to really warm up to it. And it kind of stuck with me. I keep thinking about it, and the core idea, the more I think about it, regardless if you're into this whole game thing or not, it suggests we're already players.
Right.
So, might as well understand the rules of the game.
For sure.
Give you a bit of an edge.
Exactly. And the first core mechanic that they talk about in the video is something we all deal with constantly at time, that finite resource. Like in a game, right? You can't get it back. And they draw a direct line between this and folks like you who are interested in the deep dive. You're here to learn new things, to gain knowledge.
Absolutely.
But you want to do it efficiently. And the speaker argues quite strongly that if you're spending time on activities that aren't really pushing you forward,
right,
if they're not giving you some sort of positive return on investment, you're essentially wasting that precious resource.
Yeah, you're leaking time. It's like, imagine playing a game and spending hours doing something that doesn't actually level you up.
Totally. So thinking about that for you, are there any news sources or learning methods you're dedicating time to that aren't really delivering what you're looking for?
It's easy to get caught up in the noise, the busyness of life, right? And this idea of intentionality with your time. It's something that resonated with me from the video. It's about asking yourself, is this activity, is this information actually moving me closer to my goals?
Absolutely.
And that connects so well into the idea of wanting to be well-informed. It's not just about consuming information. It's about being discerning with what you choose to consume. It's about that high return on investment in terms of actual knowledge.
Okay, so let's get into the next key element, your avatar. This is basically who you are in the game. The video uses this really cool analogy with Mario Kart.
I love that analogy.
If you pick, say, Bowser, you might have strength.
Right.
You might get some powerful items, but, Bowser's kind of slow.
Right, you trade off speed for power.
Exactly, but then you've got Peach, who's nimble and quick, but maybe not as strong initially.
Right. Different strengths.
Different strengths. And the video says, in real life, this translates to those inherent differences we're all born with. Looks, intelligence, health, even our financial background. It's like those starting stats.
It is. And, what I appreciate about the video is it acknowledges that those inequalities exist, but instead of getting bogged down by them, it shifts the focus to what you can actually influence, which is so much more empowering.
Right. So instead of lamenting, why didn't my avatar start with better stats?
Exactly.
The video directs us to this concept of bars.
Bars.
Think of it like those metrics you see in a video game, like your health bar, stamina, your inventory, those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's like your resources.
Exactly, your resources. And these bars represent everything that makes up your avatar, your skills, the resources you have access to, your natural talents, even your environment.
It's a really comprehensive way to look at it. And what's interesting is the speaker immediately focuses on probably the most crucial bar of all health.
Health. They really hammer this home.
Right, because the point they make is without your health, nothing else really matters. If your health bar is depleted, all the other bars suffer.
So true.
It's the foundation. And they don't just mean physical health. They broaden it to being mindful of any risks that could negatively impact your health, both in the short and long term.
That's such a good point. It's not just about hitting the gym. It's a holistic view of well-being. And they had this great example in the video about sleep. You know how some people sacrifice sleep for work, thinking it'll make them more productive and lead to more wealth?
I've been there.
We've all been there. But the video argues that ultimately the lack of sleep, that exhaustion, it backfires.
It does. It completely undermines your efforts. You're basically trying to work harder when you should be working smarter.
Exactly. And they even mention Alex Burkhart's view on fasting and how it can improve focus for deep work.
Oh, that's fascinating. I haven't heard that perspective before.
Yeah, it's this idea of optimizing your physical state for better mental performance, which is something you might find really relevant given your focus on efficient learning. Your mental and physical state, they directly impact how well you could absorb and retain information.
That makes so much sense. It's like you can't just keep adding more information if your system isn't running optimally.
Exactly. And the video really emphasizes that. Now, moving beyond those foundational elements, the video tackles skills as a major factor in shaping your life, especially your career path. They address that common argument about physically demanding jobs that pay less versus those higher paying jobs that may not be as physically taxing. And the video's response is pretty blunt. They call it a skill issue.
Yeah, it's a bold statement, but it really gets you thinking. The point isn't to devalue those physically demanding jobs, but to highlight that certain skills are simply more highly valued in today's economy. It's about understanding the market forces at play.
Right. And for you, as someone who's actively looking to expand your knowledge and maybe even advance in your career, this part of the video is particularly important. They specifically point to sales and technology, particularly things like AI and computer science, as having a high return on investment right now. And those fields are in demand precisely because they solve problems and drive innovation.
And this aligns perfectly with your interest in gaining knowledge that's not only interesting but also has practical value. It's about being strategic with your learning, investing your time and energy in skills that will give you the most leverage in the long run.
Exactly. It's not just about effort. It's about directed effort. It's about investing in yourself, in the skills and knowledge that can truly pay off. Now, the next bar the video dives into is location, which is essentially your environment, the context in which your avatar operates. They share a personal story about moving out of Australia to find a better fit for their goals and aspirations, citing differences in the people, the market, and even the overall mentality.
Yeah, and that story really highlights how much our surroundings can influence our ability to thrive. Like in a video game where certain characters might excel in specific environments. The video makes the case that finding a location where your skills are in demand, where you have access to the resources you need, and where the culture aligns with your values and goals.
Right, all of that.
It's crucial for making progress. They even use the example of the dating pool, which, while maybe a bit provocative, illustrates how location can significantly impact even our personal lives.
It's about recognizing that your external circumstances matter just as much as your internal attributes and skills. It's about optimizing your environment to support your overall growth, both professionally and personally.
And it's not necessarily about finding the best place objectively, but finding the best fit for you, for your unique set of skills and goals.
Right. So it's this idea that you can be working incredibly hard, but if you're in an environment that doesn't support or value your skills, you're going to face unnecessary obstacles. Now let's move on to network, which the video emphasizes as a major key to success.
Network is huge, right? They compare it to having a strong team in video game, people who can share resources and support you on your journey. And that anecdote they share about a friend who networked in Dubai and landed a job in New York really drives home the point.
It really does. It's this idea that your connections can open doors you didn't even know existed. And the video even addresses those who might be hesitant about networking, especially if they consider themselves introverted. They basically say, find a way.
Right, like adapt and figure out what works for you. They even bring up this really interesting idea, especially for women, about using dating apps as a networking tool.
It's definitely thinking outside the box.
Yeah, it is.
But it's about recognizing that your network is a valuable resource. But the video makes this crucial point, especially for those who might feel like they don't have as much to offer yet. What are you bringing to the table?
Yeah, it's not just about taking, right, it's about reciprocity. Networking is about building mutually beneficial relationships. And if you're aiming to connect with people who are, further along in their game, so to speak.
More leveled up.
Exactly. You need to have something to offer. It really underscores the importance of constantly investing in your own skills and knowledge, because that makes you a more valuable connection.
Totally. Okay, let's address the beauty bar now. This is where the video gets into the concept of pretty privilege. They're pretty straightforward about it, saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. And they go on to discuss the possibility of considering surgery or fillers, arguing that if the return on investment is there and it aligns with your personal desires, then why not?
This is definitely a sensitive topic.
For sure.
But it's interesting because they present a very pragmatic, though potentially controversial, perspective. The main message, beyond those more extreme suggestions, seems to be about being presentable.
Right, putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, exactly. And they use some strong language, referring to women as a currency and a status symbol, which, might rub some people the wrong way.
Yeah, it's certainly a viewpoint that could spark debate.
Absolutely.
But I think the underlying point is that certain attributes, including physical appearance, do play a role in how we're perceived and how people interact with us. Now, to balance that out, they do also suggest the alternative of self-acceptance and learning to appreciate your natural self.
And I think that's really important. It's about finding that balance between recognizing the role of external factors and cultivating inner confidence and self-love.
Absolutely. And this leads us perfectly into the concept of return on investment, or ROI, which the video highlights as a crucial framework for making decisions in life. They use a great example. Therapy.
Yeah, that therapy example really brought it home for me. It illustrates how neglecting certain bars, like mental health, can have far-reaching consequences even if you think you're saving money or time in the short term.
Right. And they frame therapy as an investment,
Which it is.
which it is, and they highlight how addressing your mental health can have a ripple effect, improving your relationships, your physical health, your overall well-being.
Yeah, it's like a multiplier effect.
Exactly. It reinforces this idea that everything is interconnected, every choice involves a trade-off, and you have to be mindful of the long-term consequences, not just the immediate costs or benefits.
It's like, are you playing the short game or the long game, right? And the video is advocating for thinking long-term, making choices that will ultimately level you up across all your bars.
Exactly. Now, towards the end, the video lays out what they call things that will level you down in the game of life. It's like a warning list of common pitfalls.
Yeah, it's almost like they're saying avoid these at all costs if you want to keep your bars in good shape.
Right, and they list things like falling behind in a competitive environment, bad health habits like poor diet, drugs, smoking.
Yeah, those classic ones.
The classic ones. Social isolation, which they point out, has a surprisingly high mortality rate compared to smoking.
I was shocked by that statistic.
It's pretty eye-opening. Then there's negative influences from your teammates, your inner circle.
Right, the people you surround yourself with.
Exactly. Fear and self-doubt, lack of focus, burning bridges, and only focusing on yourself, which they argue makes it much harder to succeed because you're not leveraging the resources and support of others.
It's interesting because they frame succeeding alone as almost impossible. They emphasize the value of collaboration and building those mutually beneficial relationships, which ties back to the importance of networking.
Totally. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life as a video game analogy, it's clear that while the initial idea might seem kind of whimsical, it actually offers a really practical framework for thinking about your priorities and how you're using your resources, whether it's your time, your energy, your finances, or your effort.
And that's what I really appreciated about the video. It encourages a more strategic and intentional approach to life. It's not about turning life into a cutthroat competition.
Right.
It's about understanding the underlying dynamics and making informed choices about how you want to level up in the areas that matter most to you.
Absolutely. So here's our final thought for you to ponder. Think about which of your bars has the most potential for a positive return on investment if you were to focus on it in the coming weeks. And how might this game analogy actually shift your priorities or the decisions you make going forward? Thanks for diving in with us.
It's been a great conversation.